That's all Christopher Bell needed. One lap to pull off one of the most improbable wins in NASCAR this season. He had the lead, he had the gap. He was minutes away from punching the air and ending one of the most painful stretches of luck the number 20 team has ever seen. And then on the final lap, his engine went silent. Here's what went down at Pocono on Sunday. Bell started 22nd at the Great American Getaway 400 in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Spent most of the afternoon buried in the mid-pack with nowhere to go. Here's their station's way. With 53 laps left, crew chief Adam Stevens made a gutsy call. Pit the car and go on a fuel-saving strategy to the finish. Normal fuel runs go about 42 laps. Stevens needed 53. Bell cycled to the front as competitors pitted. With 23 laps to go, he was suddenly leading the race by 17 seconds over second place. Then the fuel started running out. Denny Hamlin, Bell's own teammate, caught him past him with 5 laps to go. Bell dropped from second to third to fourth as his car slowed on fumes. Coming around to take the white flag, meaning 1 lap to go, the car sputtered and died. He pitted from fourth on the last lap, finished 26th. Stevens said it best, just a lap and a quarter short. Now here's what makes this hit even harder. Bell didn't even show up to Pocono healthy. The week before at Michigan, he was running second when he got caught up in a crash that broke his left wrist. Most drivers pull out and rest. Bell taped up, had his team reshape the cockpit to fit a custom cast, and drove all 160 laps himself. NASCAR had Brandon Jones on standby just in case. Jones never drove a single lap, but the injury was real. Bell said restarts were brutal, moments where you need lightning-fast corrections on the wheel. With a fractured wrist, those sharp, instinctive moves just weren't available to him. He got door banged going into turn 3 by Josh Berry's car and admitted he simply couldn't react the way he normally would. Add to that a qualifying run that buried him 22nd. The race had long green flag runs, few cautions, minimal chaos, which is the worst possible scenario when you're trying to work your way through traffic. The team was, by Bell's own admission, going nowhere. Let's talk about what Stevens actually did here, because this deserves credit. When you're running 20th to 25th with no real shot at a top 10, you have 2 options: take your points and go home, or roll the dice on something nobody else is doing. Stevens chose the dice. Stretching a fuel run from 42 laps to 53 is not a small gamble. That's an 11-lap extension on a track where one miscalculation means you're pushing your car into the garage. Stevens was monitoring Bell's throttle input and engine RPM through what's called SMT data, real-time telemetry that tracks how hard the driver is pressing the gas. But even with all that data, Stevens admitted they were operating in the dark. When you're saving fuel that aggressively, the margin for error disappears. Bell's response was textbook. He short-shifted early to bleed every ounce of efficiency out of the engine. With 10 laps to go, he stopped shifting entirely and rode 5th gear all the way home. Not racing, not pushing, just surviving. The strategic math was actually sound. With a 17-second gap over Hamlin, Bell theoretically had time to keep saving and still hold position, but the faster cars weren't on fuel-save mode. They were closing at race pace. And once Bell started dropping positions, the fuel window collapsed faster than anyone expected. Here's the deeper issue. This is now a pattern for the number 20 team in 2026. Charlotte, runner-up. Nashville, runner-up. Nashville, runner-up. Michigan running second before the crash, finished 31st. Pocono leading by 17 seconds, finished 26th. That's not a performance problem, that's a luck problem. And luck problems are the hardest things in motorsport to fix because there's no mechanical solution. Is the fuel gamble strategy smart? Absolutely. When you're outside the top 20 with 50 laps to go, conventional racing gets you conventional results, which is nothing. The risk was calculated, the execution was as good as it could be. Sometimes the math just doesn't land. The NASCAR community is going to feel this one. Bell is a driver that fans genuinely root for. He's got real speed, a cool head, and now a broken wrist that he raced through just to compete. That combination, grit plus heartbreak, is exactly the kind of story that resonates. The reaction will be split right down the middle. One side will point to Stevens making an aggressive, creative call that nearly worked. They'll say this is what good crew chiefs do, manufacture opportunities out of nothing, and they'll be right. The other side will ask whether Bell's season has become a mental and physical grind that's starting to compound. 3 straight near misses, an injury, and a 26th place finish you almost turned into a win. That's a lot for any team to carry. And then there's the Denny Hamlin factor. Same garage, same team. Hamlin won the race, his third straight at Pocono and the 64th victory of his career. The gap between where those two drivers are right now this season could not be more stark. Best case, Bell's wrist heals cleanly over the next week. The team hits the naval-based Coronado in San Diego with momentum from Pocono rather than grief because they know the car had speed when it mattered. The fuel strategy becomes a confidence builder. Stevens gets aggressive again, the luck shifts, and Bell picks up his first win of the season before the regular season ends. He's still 70 points above the playoff cutoff, so the runway exists. Worst case, the wrist isn't right for San Diego, and Bell either sits out or grinds through another painful weekend at less than 100%. The near misses start to stack up mentally on the whole team. The speed is there, but the results don't reflect it, and Bell enters the playoffs on points rather than momentum. In a championship format that rewards winners, that matters. What Bell said after the race, though, that's what sticks with me. He didn't call it a would have, could have, should have. He said that's a phrase reserved for races you should have won. This wasn't one of those. This was a gamble, a swing, and they swung hard. His words, our time will come. After everything this team has been through in 2026, you almost want to believe him. So here's the question I'll leave you with. Is Christopher Bell's luck eventually going to turn around? Or is this season already slipping away from the number 20 Toyota? Drop your take in the comments below. And if you want more deep dive NASCAR breakdowns every single week, you know what to do.